strikes back. Max Verstappen wins the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc wins the Monaco Grand Prix to achieve his dream. Off goes Leclerc, through goes Hamilton. Lando Norris wins for the first time in Formula One.
He's out around the outside. He's run out of road.
It's lights out and away we go.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to EFF-1T, the Formula One podcast. We're your hosts, Neil
and Bekah.
All right, so it has actually been quite a long time since we've been in here. We've done this. Life, as they say, life gets in the way. I usually don't like that, but yeah, sometimes you just get caught up with a bunch of other stuff, and so it's been a while. I think prior to Imola, so we're going to reach back quite a ways here. We're going to try to probably go through here pretty quick. We do want to get caught up, and we do have a lot to get through. Got what, 5 races to talk about, and 1 to preview. Talk about rookies a little bit. I don't have that on here. I'll talk about rookies a little bit, and then talk a little bit about when you want to talk about the F1 movie. Before, after, during?
I think we should do
at
that.
the end?
I think maybe first we should.
Oh, you want to talk about the F1 movie first?
Do it really quick.
All right. So we did get to go see the F1 movie the other night. What was that? Thursday night. We went to go see it, and
out early technically.
Yeah, it was
America.
kind of a early-ish preview for us here. But I don't know. What'd you think?
I liked it. I think like we talked about this a bit. Like there were definitely things where it's like that's not how that works really. But I think like it was a very nice movie to watch in terms of like I like acting and like so seeing Formula One in like a movie from an acting standpoint was really interesting. And I think we all really loved how the drivers were included, how like there was like actual clips from the races, how like the drivers like participated, like acted as themselves in the movie basically. So very unique experience and very enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm in the military or in the Navy, and I kind of equated it to Top Gun in a lot of ways, mostly kind of the general premise of the entire movie in the script a little bit. But, you know, Navy pilots, they'll snicker and turn their nose up at Top Gun like it's, you know, because it's not very realistic, but at the same time, then they'll turn around and, you know, be like, yep, that's us. We're cool like that. We're Tom Cruise. I kind of figure it's a little bit the same way. Like, is it exactly how things go? No, it's not, obviously, but it is pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. It's a Hollywood movie. They threw in the whole love story thing for no apparent reason. But it was good, and it was entertaining. It was enjoyable. And I don't know, depending on what you think is worth spending to go see a movie, maybe you should go see it. Or just wait until it comes out on Apple TV.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch, I think.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch if you're a Formula One fan. Just remember, it's a movie, and so not everything is going to be. It's not a documentary. If you want to watch a documentary, or if you want to watch realistic, check out a documentary. I would say Rush felt a little bit more realistic to me. A little bit. Stronger but of a movie, but this was still really good. All right, and that's F1 the movie. Recommend going to see it. But now we'll talk a little bit about throwing back all the way to Imola, Italy, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And some of our takeaways from that, kind of what we thought about it. It was quite a while ago, though.
It was. I think that was towards the beginning of last month, I think.
It was.
Yeah.
Yep, 16 through 18 May.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll kick it off here real quick. So a couple of things that stuck out for me. The Ferrari strategy worked out great for Lewis Hamilton. If you recall, there were two. There was a virtual, I think, and an actual safety car. First being for Esteban Ocon, and then one for Kimi Antonelli, because that was a big one. That was Antonelli's home race, and didn't get to complete the race for him, unfortunately. And both of them came at terrible times for Charles Leclerc, who did manage to move up in the standings from their starting position. Ferrari had an awful qualifying for this race. I think it was either 11th and 12th, might have been 12th and 13th. I don't remember exactly. I can find it here though pretty quick. Oh, this is moving very nicely. 11 and 12. Charles at 11, Lewis Hamilton at 12. Ferrari strategy worked out really well though, as both drivers finished well into the points. Lewis Hamilton in 4th, Charles Leclerc in 6th on this one. Ferrari strategy really benefiting Hamilton again, like we've always seen from Hamilton too, where you get the good strategy, you get the good pit stops, immediately on the radio, congratulating the team, offering his kudos and his praise. So pretty interesting, kind of a home race for Ferrari. I think though that really comes in about a month or so when we race in Monza. That's going to be the true home race. But this one, a good one for Ferrari, being able to bow back after a really terrible, really poor qualifying due to exit. How about you? What else do you think?
I think it was, for me, very impressive race from Alex Albon. Fought Charles Leclerc for 5th position. I think closer to the end of the race. Really nice to see Alex that high up in the points. And yeah, I think there was a little bit of commentary there back and forth. Because there was an incident with Charles pushing Alex off the track at one point.
Well, he didn't push him really off the track. Albon just went off the track because he wasn't in the right position. No, I'll push back on that a little bit. I forgot all about that. Charles Leclerc with a pretty good overtake on Albon coming down the inside, having pretty good position. No, it's debatable, but when you're going like 90 to 120 miles an hour into a turn, and you've got seconds, Charles looked very much in the right position to make the move. Albon did go off the track, but that was mostly because he didn't give way to Charles like he should have. And then Ferrari, again, with the weird strategy, told Charles to give it back right away before they got penalized, before they might maybe have gotten penalized. They didn't even give the stewards time to review it, just automatically assumed their guy was in the wrong, which I thought was terrible. They should have let him race and continue on. And then if the penalty came, take the penalty. It won't have cost them that much. But instead they had him swap it back, and he was never able to retake that position.
I think mainly the other thing was I felt very sad for Kimi Antonelli. I know he was really hopeful going into this race. He had his whole class there. Like the one weekend Toto Wolff wasn't there at Mercedes, and so he brought his whole class with him. And then it ended in DNF, so it was very sad for him. The home race curse continues for the drivers.
Yeah.
I don't think any one of them has had a good home race so far this year, like the result they wanted. So,
well, speaking of, our next race after that was Monaco, home race for Charles Leclerc and supposedly half the grid. But really for Charles Leclerc, who's always been just dominant, especially in practice and qualifying here, qualifies on pole probably 3 out of every 4 opportunities he gets, it feels like. And it felt like he was on his way again this time. dominated in the practices. I mean, even getting in collision with Lance Stroll, who hit him from the rear.
So, yeah.
And I would thought that would really put a dent in his practice, but nope, came right back, finished the practice in first position.
Be
Still,
ashamed if someone red flagged the session.
Yeah, and so and then came out on qualifying day and had a really great pace, but then just at the last second, pit by Norris to pole, and in Monaco, once you're on pole, barring any kind of disaster, it's a pretty fair shot that you're going to win. I know a lot of people think the fault is with Monaco and the track. They're ready to get, either an updated track or just get Monaco off the calendar altogether. Really, if you look at where the cars are now and their sizes, maybe if you focus a little bit more on getting the size of the cars back down, that would make it a little bit more competitive, in my opinion. But they did try a thing this year where they went with a mandatory 2-stop strategy to make things a little bit more interesting, which if people had played, fair, it could have been really interesting. You could have had some back markers, take that early pit stop, and then get ahead of the pit game, keep it close, and then once everybody else got their first pit in, go in for your next pit and run it to the end. Yeah. And try to get the overtake do the undercut on the pit stops. Unfortunately, teams like Racing Bulls and Williams played the game where one of their drivers would open up a gap for the other driver to be able to pit, and then come right out in front of the driver that had been holding up the pack and preventing people from overtaking.
So we ended up with massive trains.
Yeah, so you end up with a couple of really bad trains and cars being able to swap or go in for pits without losing any position whatsoever. So that really backfired. It didn't do anything to help solve it. Lewis Hamilton, again, though, was able to move up. Let's see, give me a quick second. He started off in a pretty decent spot, 4th. He did manage to pick up, I think, 1 spot, which when you kind of consider it in the end, or no, he lost a spot. Lewis Hamilton lost a spot. I didn't realize that had happened. I swear I thought it went the other way. I thought he went from 5th to 4th, but I guess not.
No, it was Verstappen. Verstappen took 4th.
So, yeah, Verstappen, who had a pretty decent strategy, was able to pick up a spot. So, yeah, I know Monaco is usually seen as a boring race. I still love it. I still think it should stay on the calendar. I just think maybe do something to bring the cars down in size and spec and try to make it a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, I think
in a tight street race.
The failure of the 2 stops did spark a very interesting trend among F1 fans, and even asking the drivers what would you change about Monaco to make it more exciting, and people were coming up with crazy ideas. I saw one that was each lap the drivers have to get out, swim a lap and get back in the car and keep driving. And half the grid has to drive backwards. So I think that was very interesting to see. Something about the 2-stop rule is apparently Mercedes forgot that there was a 2-stop rule for Monaco, which to see Toto Wolff say that was but how? Yeah. It's Monaco. People don't pit if they don't have to.
Yeah, you think with someone like Toto who knows basically the rules inside and out, he knew that was the case.
Yeah, and then my one other thing was another Yuki and Pierre collision in the race, which ended up resulting in Pierre DNFing again and Yuki not making much progress in the race either. So I think it was a difficult weekend for a lot of people just because it's Monaco and it's a bit slow. So yeah.
All right. Back to a little bit more action though when we got to Spain for the Grand Prix of Spain, and Yeah, so we go back to more strategy. Always talking about strategy here, but this time it was the Red Bull strategy that was interesting. Um, Verstappen, who had been having a pretty good race at the who was Kimi Antonelli safety car? Is he the one who triggered this safety car? I think it was.
Uh,
Do you know?
was it Kimmy?
Hmm?
I cannot remember. I don't think Kimmy DNF, did he? Or did he? Am I lying? I might be lying, guys.
All right, so yep, Kimi Antonelli's
Yep, that's
Mercedes pulled off with a mechanical
That's
issue.
right.
This is when
his engine just completely again.
went out on it. So the Mercedes engine's a little suspect, especially in the heat. And with that, Red Bull brought Verstappen in, which wasn't exactly the weirdest thing. However, instead of being able to put him onto softs or mediums to finish the last 10 or so laps of the race, he got hards, which were not going to do the job against softs and mediums that the other drivers were running, including Leclerc, who's right behind him in fourth. So once Piastri took off again at race start, Leclerc was all over Verstappen there, who fishtailed it coming out of the final turn, heading down to the straightaway. And Leclerc was able to take advantage, jump on him, and get around barely. Had a little bit of a tap on his way past Verstappen. George Russell also came up behind him, was able to put some pressure on him. And then that led to a collision for those two drivers for sure.
Verstappen was like fighting something that weekend. Like, I think, like, he's always been known as like a more aggressive driver, but like I feel like this is the most aggressive we've seen him this year, really.
Yeah.
Like even outside of his wins, I think.
Yeah, because then afterwards with dust up, I mean, it wasn't a huge dust up, but it was definitely illegal contact between the two, and Verstappen was given team orders to let Russell back in front because Russell had earned the position.
She did
and
not do that
he didn't at first, right?
Yeah, he was like, no.
And you could call it a turn in, or really, I think he was just like, I kept going straight through the turn when Russell thought he was going to get the opportunity to take back the position. And instead, Verstappen collided with Russell. Fortunately, both of them able to finish the race. Technically finished the race, although Verstappen took a pretty big penalty for that.
Yeah, 10 seconds. And I think they were still a little bunched up from the safety car, so the gaps weren't as big as they would have been. So he dropped like all the way down to 10th from 4th.
Yep.
5th or 4th.
Yep, absolutely. So, pretty interesting. Also, interesting, Sauber. I think this is about the time Sauber started to really come on.
This is when Sauber picked it up.
People started to know. So, Gabriel Bortoleto with the 12th place finish, but amazingly, Nico Hülkenberg with a 5th place finish, including a impressive overtake of Lewis Hamilton on the back straightaway.
That was very interesting.
To see the Sauber Ferrari powered overtake the actual Ferrari. So, pretty interesting stuff going on there in Spain. To me, kind of one of those ones that started off pretty interesting, kind of lulled a little bit in the middle, like a lot of them do, and then picked back up at the end with thanks to Kimi Antonelli. So you can see right there your top 3 finishers: Piastri, who needed that win to stay ahead in the Drivers' Championship, and then followed by Norris and Leclerc, who was now on his way to finishing with these last 4 races with 3 podiums out of 4 races. So
I believe that's when Ferrari made the jump, right? after Spain that's when they got P2 in the constructors? after
Yeah, they
Spain?
did. Yeah, Spain helped Ferrari claim P2 in the constructors, which they promptly gave it back in the next race in Canada.
Car sucks. Strategy sucks. P2 in the constructors.
And then we had Canada.
Yes, Canada. Hang on, I have other notes from this.
I hope you have some notes.
I had like a whole text chain about this.
Aside from just, yes, Canada.
Canada.
All right, so real quick, of course, quick reactions here after watching McLaren pretty much dominate the season with a couple bookends from Max Verstappen. A bit of change of pace, watching Mercedes take this race with a 1-3 result. Kimi Antonelli with his first podium of his career, and Russell getting the win. This, of course, helped, like we just said, Mercedes jump back ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship up to second place, with the two Ferrari drivers finishing 5th and 6th. So, again, pretty uneventful for Ferrari after having started, let's see, Charles Leclerc starting 8th, Hamilton starting 5th, and then kind of almost swapping that with Charles in 5th and Lewis Hamilton in 6th. What would you have?
Many things. I think my one shining light in Canada was Kimi Antonelli getting his first podium. Everything else hurt. Like, Alex Albon's car exploded in qualifying. Like, the entire side of his car is just like, actually, I don't want to anymore. And then the mechanics were able to fix it, and he was able to still qualify. And then he DNF'd in the race anyways. And it was like, man, are you kidding me? And then the McLaren collision.
Speaking of DNFs.
It was. I think we all knew this was a little inevitable, but it still hurt to watch. And then Lando DNF'd, and of course, like, he took full responsibility in the team. It's like, there wasn't really any like major argument there as far as we know.
Yeah.
And then Yuki, like, qualified 11th, just outside of the points, had to take a 10-place grid penalty, and worked so hard from the back of the grid to make his way up, I think, and missed out on points by 2 places.
Yeah.
So, and Ollie missed out by 1 place.
Yeah.
So, overall, I think for me, Kimi Antonelli getting the podium was like, yay! I'm going to go cry about everything else now. Yeah.
Yeah, good drama from the McLarens late with Norris trying to overtake Piastri on the inside coming down the final straight along the wall, but taking himself out instead. Piastri able to finish it in 4th, earn 12 points there. You know, that 12-point difference is really showing right about now in the driver's standings, given that Piastri is currently 15 points ahead of Lando. So that's
as of today.
Yep, as of today. So that's a big deal when you do things like that. It's going to hurt a lot, and it certainly has hurt Norris quite a bit. All right, so that brings us up to today.
Woohoo!
In Austria. All right, so we had a pretty good race today, I thought.
Yeah.
Another kind of typical Formula One race where you get some excitement in the opening laps, obviously, when the cars were still bunched up together.
Oh, man.
People space themselves out, figure out their patterns and where they're going to run. And then the pit stops happen. And you start to get a little bit of a shakeup, and then some teams will throw in a completely different, unexpected strategy, and you end up with something a little bit of chaos, or maybe you get somebody who takes a turn too wide, or I don't know, wrecks into the side of another car because your Red Bull doesn't steer well enough.
Or maybe, your car catches fire.
Yeah.
That was something oh my gosh, Signs today at the beginning of the race. Like, we saw him stall and we were like, for those who haven't seen the F1 movie, spoilers. But like, we thought he was doing something that we saw in the F1 movie where like you pretend that you kind of like pretend or like you stall a bit and so you get the warmer tires than everyone else once you finally get going on the formation lap.
Yeah, you
But
start a
really-
little bit on the start of the formation lap, which lets everybody get ahead. So then in order to catch up so you don't get penalized, you have to go faster.
Yeah.
And then going faster
Gives
than
you the
everybody
warmer
else
tires.
gives you warmer tires. So
But no, Sainz was actually having an issue, but he managed to get the car going after a little bit of assistance from the stewards. Had to pull into the pit lane because he didn't start soon enough for the formation lap.
Yeah. Well, didn't get back before the formation had reestablished itself.
Yeah. So, and then pulled up to the end of the pit lane, and suddenly the back of his car was on fire. Both rear tires.
Yeah. So I think it's probably the rear brakes were completely locked up on them, and being able to finally get the car going around just pretty much drugged the brakes until they overheated and caught fire.
Yeah. Weekend to forget for Williams, for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Double DNF.
Albon ended up having his own issues later on and had a DNF
and it
as
was,
well.
Again, for Albon, it was like his qualifying was kind of wrecked because of a red flag. Because he was getting going on his lap, he had the fresh tires, was like starting to pick it up, and then the red flag happened, and then he had to go back out on used tires, wasn't able to make it out of Q2, but then picked up so many places at the beginning of the race, and it was looking good for him. I think he was running 6th or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then he had to pit and ended up DNFing, so definitely a weekend not for the memory book for Williams.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, what did he do? 15 laps. He got 15 laps in before he had to call it kaput. So, again, like I said, great race start, some good action in the first probably 5 to 10 laps, particularly from the two McLarens out front. Had a good qualifying for the Ferraris where Charles Leclerc was able to pit Piastri by what was that, like about 1/10 of a second, maybe not even that, and then and get into P2 on the grid to start off, split the McLarens. Lewis Hamilton Lewis Hamilton right behind Piastri, but a brilliant start, I think. Norris has taken a lot of crap in the past for his starts. This one was a really good start. He was able to get ahead of Leclerc, and I think able to do a nice move where he kind of slowed up Leclerc just enough that Piastri was able to start the overtake on Leclerc, and then pulled over and gave Piastri the tow around Leclerc on top of it, and get Piastri out in front of Leclerc quickly. I thought that was actually a pretty brilliant maneuver.
Yeah.
And pretty good teamwork there. If in fact that's what they're trying to do.
It's
I don't
not
know.
Mercedes,
I'm not convinced that's what they were actually doing, but that's certainly what it looked like.
I think it, like, intentional or not, worked out well for them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think from there, Ferrari quickly realized they were not going to keep pace with the McLarens through this race.
Man.
But they also realized that they were going to stay ahead of Russell, who through also the first 5 or so laps was right on Lewis Hamilton's gearbox. Unable to get the move done, though, and had to back off to save his tires. And I think Ferrari figured out pretty quick that their upgrades that they brought this weekend were good enough to stay ahead of Mercedes, but not quite good enough to catch McLaren. I think they were content at that point to just ride the car, take care of their tires, take care of the engine, not get anything blown up, and get the 3-4 finish, which was just good enough to get them out in front of Mercedes again, especially with
the DNF from Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, Antonelli with that first turn smash up on Max Verstappen.
If Everything's great, guys. It was interesting to see the reactions to the Red Bulls this weekend because there was one specific point towards the end of the race because Yuki ended up with a 10-second time penalty and running last, so 16 out of 16 by that point in the race, and Max had already been out, and the commentators were talking about it doesn't make any sense to swap Yuki out at this point in the season because it's not the drivers, it's neither of the drivers, it's the car. Maybe they Red Bull shouldn't be making a car that's just tailored to Max Verstappen. And I'm sitting there like, you don't say. It's very interesting. Thank you for recognizing that. I feel like we all recognize that forever ago. I think difficult race for Red Bull, difficult race for Yuki, keeps trying his best. I forget, and qualifying was awful, man. That both he and Max have been talking about the grip that the car, neither of them have any grip. Yuki pulled into the pits after getting out in Q1 saying he had no grip, he couldn't get anything, and it was also difficult because Austria is such a short track and the lap times are so close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally a matter of tenths and hundredths of a second at this track.
Yeah.
And then Max at the end of qualifying was I have no grip, I can't I have no speed whether I'm on hard, softs, or mediums. So
yep, it's a downforce issue.
Yeah.
So I think one of my last points was the Sauber with a double point finish.
Gabriel Bortoleto, guys.
Gabriel Bortoleto with a fantastic qualifying, 8th in qualifying, his highest qualifying. Nico Hulkenberg, though, with an awful qualifying all the way down in 20th. So he started dead last on the grid until Carlos Sainz set his car on fire, which gave gave Nico a one position boost from the very beginning. But then the finishing, I had voted, I don't know why I did this now, for driver today. I voted for Bortoleto for his 5th place or his 8th place final finish, which really he didn't do anything through the race. He just held position. Whereas Nico Hulkenberg from 20th made it to 9th.
Yeah,
I think in hindsight, I really should have voted for Hulkenberg.
I think part of that was it was Bortoleto's first points this season and his best qualifying ever, his best finish ever. I mean, and Nico had 2 good finishes before this. The past 2 weekends before that, he was doing great. So it's Bortoleto's time, guys.
Yeah, because the other person who I think deserves a little credit and consideration is Esteban Ocon, who finished 10th after starting 17th.
Yeah.
Ollie Behrman started 15th, made it into Q2, but only barely, or only just enough to make it to qualifying 15th. And Ocon qualifying 17th, 2 spots behind him. Finished right ahead of him. Picked up some points for Haas, much needed, especially with Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso picking up 6 in 7th position. Liam Lawson for the Racing Bulls all the way up in 6th, his best finish.
Yep.
And 8 points. That put Racing Bulls up pretty high. We'll talk about it in a minute, but yeah, impressive drive today from the Sauber. I think that we talked about it today. I think the Audi check has cleared.
Cleared. They got the upgrades, man.
And so now they're starting to get some upgrades into that car.
It's not a tractor.
And should be interesting. Hopefully Haas can. I think Haas really needs to work on this car, get some good upgrades here because. You got, Racing Bulls, Sauber, even Alpine to an extent. and Aston Martin for sure, all making inroads here on Haas. Williams, with their couple strong finishes, a few races back, are sitting pretty far ahead. But so it's going to be difficult to try to catch them. But to be in the fight with these other three teams for P6 in the constructors is going to be huge for Haas going forward. We saw the same thing last season.
Yep.
And they missed out on P6 and quite a bit of money.
That was to Alpine, right?
That comes with that. Yeah, Alpine with the late season
double podium in Brazil.
Yep, and we're able to
Rain.
jump ahead of Haas there at the last minute. So, all right. So that brings us now to our last bit. We'll talk our last couple of bits. We'll talk a little bit about this coming weekend when we move to Great Britain into Silverstone for the Grand Prix there.
Silverstone makes me nervous.
Yeah, but Silverstone's great. I love Silverstone. Obviously, you know, the original Formula One track of them all. Going into it now, standings, McLaren clearing it well away. Number one, for all intents and purposes, barring like burn down of their headquarters and factory, they won the constructors. Like they say at 417 to Ferrari's 210. They're 217 points ahead with 12 races left to go. Ferrari could, I think, 1-2 it, and McLaren could 3-4 it for the rest of the season, and Ferrari could not catch them. So
Mercedes is only 1 point back.
Yeah, and then so the real battle here is for second place.
Yeah.
Ferrari at 210, Mercedes at 209, and Red Bull Racing all the way down in fourth, sitting at 162. Not completely out of it, but they're really close to being out of it. They really need that second car to start scoring points if they're going to have any prayer whatsoever to get second position.
Need to fix the car.
And so right now the real battle between Ferrari and Mercedes, which, you know, that's the way it's always been.
Kind of, yeah.
Williams, like I said, sitting pretty solid in fifth place with 55 points. Racing Bulls with a nice jump this weekend. Last weekend before this weekend, they were tied with Haas at 28 points. Now sole possession of sixth place with 36 points. And Haas behind them, picking up Ocon's 1 point today, puts them at 29 points and seventh. But Aston Martin right up their tailpipe, 28 points. And then Kick Sauber with two out of three really strong races, including double points today, now at 26 points. So only 3 off of Haas in seventh place. If Haas, this is why I say, like, this is so much tighter this year. If Haas does not get their act together with this car and start figuring out quality and getting Ollie up there and into the points on a consistent basis, they're going to find themselves pretty like in ninth really quick and in serious danger of falling dead last again, which after last year's promising result, you really do not want to see that, especially given the fact that they started off this season so well. So going into Silverstone, really kind of a home race for a lot of constructors.
Yeah.
There's a ton who headquarter out of Great Britain right around Silverstone, but hopefully the Haas can put together a good package. Ferrari can continue to compete and fight against Mercedes, put a little bit of distance between them and the Silver Arrows.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see all the drivers who consider this like a home race, especially with the supposed curse we've been having, because it's Norris, Hamilton, Russell, Behrman, and Alex Albon. He races under the Thai flag, but like his family lives in Britain, and he's like, he considered, like, as far as I know, I think he considers Silverstone and Singapore his home tracks, because there's not one in Thailand, so Singapore is his closest one.
Yet. So that's some news that we might try to get into next time.
Especially during like summer break when there's not a lot of races going on. I think we're going to do some filler episodes.
Yeah, we'll talk about Thailand, South Korea, South Africa.
I have theories for South Korea, guys. I'm not crazy. Wow. Okay.
So, and then let's see. Speaking of some of the drivers, and kind of this being, what would we say, 4 definite Brits, and then Albon, who's I think dual citizen between Thailand and Great Britain. We'll talk a little bit about where we sit with the drivers' championship. So we mentioned it briefly earlier with Norris and his mess up at in Canada, and now sits 15 points behind Oscar Piastri, who's got 216, which means Lando has 201. Verstappen still, despite all the struggles, sits in third position, 50 or 40, what's that, 46 points out.
Max Verstappen's in Imola.
Of second place. 46 is actually really hard to make up when you've got a team and a couple of drivers performing as well as the 2 McLarens are. So that's going to be difficult because you can expect them to finish usually top 5, but definitely within the points every time. And then George Russell, being Russell,
fourth,
sitting at 4th with 146. Again, pretty well ahead of Leclerc, who's at 5th with 119, and then Lewis Hamilton behind him at 91. I won't run through all 21 drivers, but there are quite a few. I don't know who. I'll pick out some of my favorites. Nico Hulkenberg is in 10th. He's got 22 points, so those points helping out, like we said. Sauber bring it up, and then Ollie Behrman, basically, like, I would say a solid rookie right now. We'll get into here in a minute, but rookie scoring points, pretty good, pretty solid. And then Esteban Ocon, who's just ahead of Nico with 23 points.
Alex Albon.
So let's see if he can
42
keep on keeping on. So, who are your drivers that you're interested in here?
Alex Albon, Inna Williams, 42 points so far this year, in 8th in the drivers.
Williams is 55 points.
Yeah.
Which is a surprise. I don't think many people going into the season saw Albon making up 4/5 of Williams' points.
I feel like a lot of people, like Alex has been number 1 driver there for a bit now. But like with Sainz coming in, I definitely feel like a lot of people weren't expecting it, weren't sure how the dynamic was going to go, especially after preseason testing with like Sainz topping the sheets and postseason testing for everyone's new teams or like other drivers that are not currently in F1 testing. And I'm not sure anyone really saw this coming. So it's been really nice to even stuff keeps happening with Alex, the DNFs, the car exploding, just giving up on him. He's still going, still 8th in the championship. So seeing that.
Anybody else?
Isaac Hadjar definitely looking like rookie of the year so far. Like Kimi Antonelli and Isaac Hadjar. Okay. When they asked the rookies, they asked, who did they ask? I think they asked Ollie, Kimi, and Nico who they thought rookie of the year was so far. And they were all I think Isaac's done really well. And then it was also nice to see Nico saying, I think they're all doing well. I think all the rookies are giving it their best and doing their best they can in their rookie season. And then, Yuki, guys, fix the car for him, and it'll be great. Don't give him Max Verstappen's car 2.0. Give him Yuki Tsunoda car, and it'll be great.
Well, Adrian Newey is not there anymore, so it's a little difficult for them to develop a car.
But Sebastian Vettel might be joining the team instead of Helmut Marko. That was something going on.
We all remember Inspector Vettel from his racing days and taking a look at cars after races. So I think right now, rookie of the year, I could see the argument for Hadjar. It's really hard when Antonelli is sitting there with 63 points and 7th in the drivers' championship.
I think it's
But
going to be between them two for rookie.
when you consider probably the car itself, and maybe the Racing Bull isn't quite as strong as the Mercedes, and Antonelli's got a little bit stronger of a car. Definitely,
Well, I
I would
mean-
say a stronger team behind him with Toto. And
Has Isaac DNF'd since Australia?
yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
No. I am rooting for Kimi, guys. It's
So.
like,
All right, I think going into Silverstone, I think probably mark this down as another McLaren strong finish, probably
now
a
you jinxed it.
1 or 2 podiums. That's what I'm hoping for. Probably a pretty strong finish there. Piastri and Norris both
Home race, guys, home
super
race.
tough. This would be great. Norris would, I know, definitely be all about it, being a definite home race for him. But I don't think, like we mentioned just a little bit ago, keep an eye on Leclerc.
Yeah.
Podium 3 out of the last 4 races. Right there with Piastri and Norris. They're the only other 2 drivers to have done that in the last 3 races. So really kind of very small incremental improvements for Leclerc and the Ferrari. And who knows, maybe Lewis Hamilton, he loves racing Silverstone. Maybe he can really push that Ferrari around the track. But
Generally owned Silverstone in the past.
I think this is a pretty strong spot for Orlando to kind of cut into Piastri's lead, make this a really, really close title championship.
It's either going to get really close and really scary, or the home race curse is going to pull through.
All
which
right.
would be sad.
So what you got for rookie recap? This is your segment.
Don't
let me down.
Okay. I want to start off with Franco Colapinto.
All right, you let me down.
Because, okay. Well, I mean.
Go ahead.
Franco Colapinto, like, Alpine brought him in after swapping Jack out after, what was it? 6 races? 5 races? Something like that? I forget.
Yeah, something like that.
They basically came out of nowhere saying, like, no, Jack is staying. And then and then their team principal quit, and they're like, actually, no. We're swapping Jack out for Franco Colapinto, who's got 5 races to do something. And he has not scored any points. And yet there's been really no update, as far as I know, from Alpine at what their next steps are. If they're keeping Colapinto, if they're bringing Jack back in, if they're bringing one of their other like 345 reserve drivers in. Franco Colapinto and Jack Doohan, only drivers to have not scored this year, which, like, and they're both rookies technically. They've technically both been in F1 before, but still, and especially from like Franco Colapinto, who had pretty strong performances in the Williams last year, which wasn't even at the standard it is this year. Kind of interesting to see with him in the Alpine this year. So we'll see where Alpine goes with this. If they bring in yet another rookie, if they keep someone, switch Jack back in, who knows? Like we were saying earlier, Bortoletto, first points, really excellent qualifying yesterday, and then very good points today in Austria. It's nice to see him finally picking up points, and with the new upgrade package we're thinking came through.
Yeah.
And like, I imagine that has to feel good. Like, he's currently the reigning F2 champion, so I imagine finally getting points in F1, not too deep into the season, but kind of like, I think we're like, 10th race?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 10th race in, finally scoring some good points. Ollie Behrman, I think it's been kind of up and down so far this season for him. I think he's missed out on points a couple times now. Just
missed out on points.
Missed out on points.
He's missed out on points several times, but
like
been very close, like a handful of times, especially recently. Like today, finished I think 11th or 12th today.
11th today with Ocon in 10th. So, yeah, like, I think if the Haas gets upgraded, I think if qualifying just goes their way a little bit more, like Ollie has a lot of potential to get more points.
He also
for the
entered
team.
today as the driver with the greatest differential in position between his qualifying and his result of any of the drivers on the grid. So he has an average of 5 position improvement from his qualifying to his race result across the season, which is the best of the drivers. Unfortunately, he qualifies like 17th and 18th half the time,
and
or
has
15th like this time.
and pushes all the way up to like 11th, but there's just not enough race or just
Yeah.
not enough pace to like get past.
So
Um,
if we could get him to qualify, in the upper end of Q2,
like yeah,
maybe
because
11th,
I mean he
then
was
we'd
able
have a
to,
chance.
He was able to do it with Ferrari last year. Went from 11th
Well,
to
it's
7th in his first race.
Slightly better car.
But like if you put him in this year's Ferrari,
So it'll be all right, I think. Okay.
Liam Lawson. I think we know how I generally feel about Liam Lawson. Oh, geez. Okay. Impressive race today from Lawson. Out-qualified Max Verstappen. So, yeah, good for him. Get some good points. Keep bringing it in for V-Carb. I think very promising result for the team. Isaac Hadjar continuing to get good points. I don't believe he got any today. No, but he has gotten fairly decent points past few weekends, especially in the triple header. I think he got points every race of the triple header.
Yeah.
So impressive.
Right behind Behrman today.
Yeah, so impressive from Hadjar. A little bit of a thing between him and Sainz last race in Canada with the impeding qualifying, and he ended up finishing very far down the order. So Carmo? I don't know. Who else? Kimi Antonelli. Got into him a lot. Again, also very up and down. Didn't have a great home race. Had another bad race in Spain and Monaco. Wasn't good for either Mercedes, but brought it back with first podium and then DNF today after hitting Max Verstappen. So I think there's a bit of a pattern here for Kimi. Either like really, really good finish or doesn't.
Yeah, which
finish.
kind of tracks with 18-year-old kids.
Oh. I believe that's all 6 rookies. Yeah. So.
All right, so that's going to do it for us today. Have a good time doing this. We love obviously watching these races. We hope to be able to bring you a little bit more commentary, a little bit deeper commentary on these. Try to get you some good stuff after Silverstone. Maybe not wait so long to get good stuff on the air, but we'll have a good race coming up. Back and forth on the experiences. And we're already all right. Y'all make sure you like, subscribe, make sure adding in new content, and make sure to tune in, stick around. Hoping to get better and better.